The Veil of Everdusk. The wind carried a strange scent over the cliffs of Everdusk, a mingling of salt and something older, something whispered only in the shadows of memory. From the edge of the precipice, Kellen gazed at the horizon where the sun's final light fractured across the restless sea. He had always felt the pull of this place, a magnet that tugged at the corners of his mind, drawing him to secrets he could not yet name. In the village below, people spoke of the cliffs as though they were a living thing, a sentinel guarding the boundary between the ordinary and the extraordinary. But Kellen did not fear. He felt anticipation thrumming through his veins like a hidden current. He had been waiting for something, though he could not articulate what, as though every step of his life had been leading him to this precise moment. In the town, the market had already emptied for the evening, the merchants shuttering their stalls with a mechanical rhythm. Their voices a distant echo carried up the wind. Kellen descended the narrow cobblestone path, every stone familiar yet now seeming to shift beneath his gaze. The lanterns flickered as he passed, their soft glow painting transient shadows across the walls, shadows that seemed to whisper, urging him onward. He arrived at the ancient archway known only as the threshold, a relic of some forgotten age, carved with symbols that pulsed faintly as if aware of his presence. Scholars had long debated the origins of the threshold, some claiming it to be a doorway to other realms, others insisting it was merely an artifact of artistic obsession, a monument to ancestors who had understood something beyond comprehension. Kellen, however, had learned to trust the pull he felt in his chest whenever he approached it. It was a pulse older than memory, older than the village, older than the cliffs themselves. Tonight, the pull was insistent, urgent. He reached out, fingers brushing the cold stone, and the symbols flared with light, momentarily illuminating the darkening sky. The air shimmered. A breeze rose, carrying the scent of jasmine and something metallic, the mingling notes striking a chord deep within him. And then, from nowhere and everywhere, a voice spoke, though no lips moved. No sound waves traveled. Kellen, the veil thins, and the time comes, the words echoed, not in his ears but in his mind, reverberating through memory and instinct, leaving him breathless and trembling. He stepped through. The world shifted. Colors became heavier, more vivid, as though the very fabric of reality had been infused with light and shadow in equal measure. The sea below roared not with water, but with movement that defied comprehension, waves curling with impossible geometry, spraying sparks of light instead of foam. Kellen felt vertigo, yet it was not fear, only wonder, and a strange sense of belonging he could not yet name. The threshold had transported him somewhere uncharted, a plane that hummed with possibility. Ahead, a figure awaited him. Cloaked in the muted hues of twilight, the figure's face was obscured, but Kellen sensed its gaze piercing him with ancient knowledge. "You have come," the figure said, voice low, resonant, as though carried from the depths of the world itself. "The veil has grown thin, and the time to learn has arrived. Few are chosen to witness what lies beyond the Everdusk, and even fewer survive the truths they carry back." Kellen swallowed, the words heavy in his chest. I feel as though I've always been here," he admitted, voice trembling yet steady, as if acknowledging a secret he had never dared speak. The figure inclined its head. "Because you have been. Every path you walked, every choice you made, has been a step toward this moment. Yet be warned, Kellen, knowledge is both gift and burden. What you learn here may illuminate your soul, or shatter it. Your will must be unwavering." The wind shifted again, and the space around them pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Kellen felt his senses expand, the horizon bending, revealing glimpses of impossible landscapes, forests of crystalline trees whose leaves sang when touched by light, rivers of liquid silver flowing upwards, skies where stars moved in patterns that hinted at intention, not chaos. He realized he was standing at the edge of possibility, at the intersection of all things that were, could be, and might never come to pass. The figure extended a hand, and in it appeared a small orb, glowing faintly, swirling with shadow and light. "This is the beacon of Leora," it explained. "It will guide you through what must be seen. But remember, not all that glows leads you forward. Some lights are traps, reflections meant to mislead, to turn your heart inward until you are lost." Kellen took the orb, and the warmth of it spread through his fingers into his arm, a current of awareness that seemed to settle his thoughts, sharpen his mind, and awaken memories he did not consciously hold. He saw visions flicker before him, his childhood, moments of decision, friends long forgotten, strangers whose paths intersected with his in ways he had never noticed. All of it had been leading here, converging at this point where time and reality bent, where Where do I go? He asked, voice smaller now, swallowed by and the weight of responsibility. The figure gestured toward the horizon, where the light fractured into ribbons of iridescence. Follow the strands, Kellen. The veil will guide you, but your heart must choose. Every step is both question and answer. Hesitate, and the opportunity will vanish. Doubt, and you may find yourself trapped between moments, neither here nor there. Move with certainty, and you will see truths few have ever beheld. Kellen nodded, feeling the pull again, stronger now, almost tangible, tugging at his chest, directing him forward. As he stepped into the iridescent ribbons, the world seemed to fold around him, twisting, expanding, and contracting with a rhythm that matched the orb in his hand. Shapes of creatures unseen but felt moved past him. Whispers of voices brushing his mind with fragments of language and emotion that were not his own, yet strangely familiar. He walked for what felt like hours. Yet no sun or moon marked the passage of time. The ground beneath him changed from stone to grass to smooth glass, reflecting skies that shimmered with hues beyond naming. The orb guided him, pulsing brighter when he hesitated, dimming when he attempted to rush. Each step became a meditation, a test of patience and perception. Finally, he reached a clearing where the ribbons converged into a single point of blinding brilliance. Kellen felt the pull of the threshold again, deeper and more insistent. As he approached, the light resolved into a figure, ethereal yet solid, radiating an aura of understanding and warning. Its eyes met his, and in them, he saw the reflection of his own soul, fractured and whole at once. "Welcome," the figure said, voice like the weaving of wind through leaves. "You have reached the heart of Everdusk, where paths converge and possibilities unfold. What you seek is here, but it is not given freely. To know the veil is to become part of it, to let it mold you, guide you, challenge you. You may never return the same, Kellen, for this place demands transformation." Kellen swallowed, gripping the orb tightly. "I'm ready," he said, though uncertainty clung to his words. He did not know if he truly was, but the pull within him, the ancient, insistent rhythm urged him forward. The figure extended its hand, and the orb lifted from his grasp, hovering between them, spinning with a brilliance that made him squint. "Then step forward," it whispered, "and see." As Kellen did, the world exploded into light and color, sound and sensation, a cascade of understanding that left him breathless. He saw histories unfold, civilizations rise and fall, moments of immense beauty and quiet despair, threads of choice and consequence intertwining like rivers meeting the sea. He understood the fragility of all things and the astonishing resilience that kept them moving, evolving, persisting. And just as suddenly as it began, the torrent subsided, leaving him standing in silence. The orb now dim and pulsing softly in his hand. The figure was gone, and the clearing stretched endlessly, inviting and uncertain. Kellen felt changed, his mind alive with knowledge he could barely comprehend. The veil had revealed itself, but this was only the beginning. Many paths awaited, each demanding courage, insight, and the unwavering trust that he could navigate what lay beyond. The first step had been taken, but the journey of Everdusk was only beginning. And as the night settled over the cliffs, the wind carried whispers, not of fear, but of promise, drawing him onward into mysteries that would test the limits of understanding and the depths of the heart. Kellen lifted the orb higher, letting it illuminate the path ahead. The horizon was no longer distant. It was immediate, alive, and waiting. And with a deep breath, he stepped forward once more into the unfolding story of the Veil of Everdusk. Kellen moved forward, each step resonating with the hum of the world around him. The clearing stretched endlessly, yet it no longer felt empty. Shapes flickered at the edge of perception, figures that seemed part shadow, part light, watching him with a curiosity that mirrored his own. He held the orb closer now, its soft glow steadying his thoughts, though the air pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Every heartbeat echoed beyond his chest, as if the land itself counted time alongside him. Ahead, a narrow path of crystal and stone appeared, twisting through the ever-shifting terrain. Kellen hesitated for only a moment before stepping onto it. The surface was smooth, yet it vibrated beneath his feet, responding to his presence. With each movement, the light from the orb grew brighter, revealing glimpses of structures rising and falling like waves frozen in mid-motion. Towers of glass, gardens where flowers hummed with subtle melodies, and rivers of liquid light unfolded before him. He sensed that the place was not just a realm, but a living entity, each element connected in ways beyond comprehension. A whisper brushed his mind, "The first trial awaits." It was neither a voice nor a thought, more like a ripple in the fabric of awareness. Kellen's pulse quickened. Trials had been mentioned, though he had expected them to be tests of endurance or intellect. This felt different, personal. The path narrowed, guiding him toward a gate carved from obsidian and etched with swirling patterns that seemed to writhe in the dim light. As he approached, the orb pulsed rapidly, warning and encouraging all at once. The gate opened silently as he neared, revealing a chamber bathed in shifting shadows. Shapes moved within, not entirely solid, not entirely void, yet each carried a presence he could feel pressing gently against his mind. They were memories or reflections of those who had walked similar paths, echoes of choices made and roads left untaken. Kellen stepped forward, the orb illuminating the space in a steady, reassuring glow. "Your trial is of perspective," the whisper said again, "to see without the distortions of desire or fear, to recognize what is and what could be without clinging to either. Only then can you move forward." Figures began to take form. At first, they appeared as mirrors of his own past friends and mentors. Fleeting moments of triumph and regret, but soon they twisted, combining elements of his memories with possibilities he had never dared imagine. He saw himself making decisions differently, moments where courage faltered or understanding deepened. Every scenario carried an emotional weight, a pull that threatened to overwhelm. Kellen realized the trial was not physical but mental, a labyrinth of introspection where the stakes were the integrity of his own spirit. He forced himself to breathe evenly, letting the orb's light guide him. It pulsed gently with each step he took, a steady rhythm to counter the chaos of visions. He began to see patterns emerge, connections between choices and consequences, the interplay of intention and action. The reflections were not meant to trap him. They were meant to teach him, to make him aware that the path through Everdusk required clarity of purpose. Arzor maybe moments passed in this way. Time had lost its usual meaning, each second stretching into infinity. Kellen learned to navigate the labyrinth of his own mind, discerning truth from illusion, recognizing the subtle whispers of the world around him. The figures no longer pressed upon him, but instead guided him, folding into the light, revealing a single archway at the center of the chamber. Beyond it, the landscape shifted once more, a valley bathed in twilight, where the sky shimmered with colors he had no names for, and the air vibrated with the pulse of life itself. As he stepped through the archway, Kellen felt a change within him, subtle but undeniable. The trial had not ended. It had transformed him. His senses were sharper, his thoughts more attuned to the world, and the orb now seemed less like a guide and more like a companion, resonating with his own heartbeat. The valley stretched before him, alive with motion and possibility, and in its center, a tree unlike any he had seen. Its trunk was wide and narrowed, yet translucent, and its branches reached upward, shimmering with light that seemed to hum with wisdom. Kellen approached, and the tree responded, a low vibration resonating through the ground and into his bones. Leaves rustled without wind, and in their movement, he glimpsed visions once more, civilizations rising and falling, moments of beauty and hardship intertwined, threads of choice and consequence weaving an infinite tapestry. The tree was not merely an object but a nexus of knowledge, a living archive of existence itself. The orb pulsed once more, and Kellen realized he could interact with the tree through it. As he placed his hand upon the trunk, memories and possibilities flowed into him, overwhelming yet enlightening. He understood that the Veil of Everdusk was not a place but a state of perception, a convergence of worlds and truths. The tree offered guidance, not answers, and he sensed that each revelation carried responsibility. To see was to act, to know was to bear the weight of understanding. A voice, now clearer, echoed in the valley, "Kellen, you have begun to perceive. But the journey ahead tests not only knowledge but heart. Every decision, every choice, resonates beyond this place. The paths you take will influence not only yourself but all connected to you. Walk with awareness, and let the light within guide you." The sky above rippled with movement, and Kellen realized the path ahead would not be straightforward. Mountains of glass rose like jagged teeth, rivers of shifting color cut through the land, and creatures of shadow and luminescence roamed freely, neither threatening nor benign, simply present as part of the world's rhythm. Yet within him, a sense of purpose had taken root. The trial had sharpened his mind, and the veil, though still mysterious, no longer seemed insurmountable. He lifted the orb, and it responded instantly, casting a beam of light toward the horizon. Through it, Kellen saw the next stage of his journey, a bridge of living crystal spanning a chasm where time itself seemed to swirl like a storm. Beyond the bridge, the landscape shimmered with possibilities, each turn of the path offering revelations and challenges alike. The valley was a proving ground, a place where perception and reality intertwined. And Kellen understood that the choices he made now would echo far beyond the confines of this twilight world. With a steadying breath, he stepped onto the bridge, the crystal beneath him singing with each footfall. The orb pulsed in rhythm, guiding him across the chasm, while the winds carried whispers of wisdom and warning. The Veil of Everdusk was alive, a living entity that demanded engagement, insight, and courage. Kellen felt the weight of his journey, yet also the exhilaration of discovery, the thrill of stepping into a world that defied conventional understanding. As he advanced, the air grew thick with expectation. Shapes moved at the edge of vision, some fleeting, some lingering, all watching, all waiting. And in the distance, where the bridge met the unknown, a towering silhouette rose against the shimmering horizon, a figure both magnificent and inscrutable, radiating power and mystery. Kellen's heart quickened. He sensed that the figure awaited him, and that the true challenges of Everdusk were only beginning. The veil shimmered, folding around him, and Kellen realized that to continue was not merely to move forward, but to embrace the unknown, to accept that understanding required both patience and courage, and that the journey through Everdusk would transform him in ways yet unimaginable. Step by step, he approached, guided by the light of the orb and the rhythm of the world itself, ready to face what lay beyond the horizon, ready to uncover truths that had waited for countless generations to be revealed. The silhouette at the horizon did not move, yet Kellen felt its awareness as tangibly as if it breathed beside him. The bridge of living crystal stretched beneath his feet, shimmering with pulses of light that seemed to respond to his thoughts. Each step echoed through the chasm, not with sound but with sensation, vibrating along the strands of possibility that connected him to the vastness of Everdusk. He tightened his grip on the orb, feeling warmth and purpose emanate from it, counterbalanced to the dizzying uncertainty of the realm around him. As he drew closer, the figure's form resolved. It was humanoid, tall, cloaked in shifting colors, that seemed drawn from every dawn and dusk Kellen had ever witnessed. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light of the orb, and when it spoke, the words were more felt than heard, pressing against his mind with clarity and weight. Kellen, it intoned, the paths of Everdusk are not linear. Each choice refracts across time and perception. To walk here is to step upon threads that bind all things. Few have understood this before, and fewer still endure it with balance. Kellen swallowed, feeling the weight of its gaze. I think I understand, he said, though the truth was more instinct than comprehension. The veil demanded not knowledge alone, but attunement, a resonance with its rhythm, a willingness to accept uncertainty as a guide rather than an obstacle. The figure extended a hand, and the air rippled with iridescent energy. The trial you faced was only the beginning. Now comes the challenge of alignment. Within the veil, intentions manifest. Desire, fear, hope, and doubt shape reality itself. Step wisely, for the bridges you cross are fragile, and the truths you encounter are not always what they appear to be. Kellen nodded, taking a cautious step forward. Instantly, the bridge beneath him shifted. Crystalline strands rose and fell, forming patterns that mirrored his own heartbeat, bending with the rhythm of his focus. He realized that the orb was not merely guiding him. It was an extension of his perception, translating intention into movement, awareness into navigation. As he continued, the bridge narrowed, and the surroundings morphed. Mountains of prismatic stone glimmered like jagged mirrors, reflecting glimpses of the past, present, and potential futures. Streams of liquid light wound through the valleys, flowing against gravity, carrying faint images of moments that had not yet occurred. Shadows of creatures both familiar and strange flickered at the periphery of vision, observers or participants. Kellen could not tell. The veil was alive, sentient, and responsive, a canvas for the interplay of consciousness and possibility. Midway across, a sudden shift forced Kellen to halt. The bridge fractured, strands of crystal dissolving into mist. Before him appeared a chasm that seemed impossibly deep, its bottom obscured by undulating clouds of color and light. He felt the pull of vertigo, but the orb flared with warmth, a pulse of reassurance and focus. He realized that to proceed, he must reach beyond instinct and trust the resonance between himself and the veil. Closing his eyes, Kellen sensed the rhythm of Everdusk beneath his feet, within the orb, and inside his own heartbeat. He let the fear dissolve, allowing awareness to guide him. Step by step, he projected himself forward, and the bridge reformed beneath him as if his intent had been the architect. The veil responded, not as an obstacle, but as a partner in the journey, shaping and bending around the alignment of mind and will. When he reached solid ground again, the figure was closer, its presence now enveloping the valley in a subtle aura of anticipation. Kellen saw that the ground ahead was dotted with pathways, each glowing faintly, radiating distinct colors and vibrations. The figure's gaze swept across them, and Kellen understood. Each path represented not only direction but choice, a spectrum of trials shaped by thought and feeling. One misstep could lead to stagnation, one hesitation could fracture the alignment he had worked so hard to maintain. The first path will test clarity, the figure said. It is not strength you need, nor speed, nor courage in the conventional sense. It is vision, insight, and the discipline to perceive the subtle threads beneath the surface. Only by discerning the truth in the moment can you pass through unscathed. Kellen steadied the paths. One shimmered with light that drew him instinctively, warm and inviting. Another pulsed with shadow and uncertainty, yet resonated faintly with curiosity and potential. The veil did not lie, it reflected his perception, amplifying both instinct and doubt. He understood that to proceed, he must embrace the unknown, balance desire with discernment, and trust the guidance of the orb as both tool and reflection of his consciousness. He chose the path of shadow and light, allowing the allure of challenge to guide him rather than the comfort of the familiar. The moment his foot touched it, the air vibrated, responding to his decision. The orb flared, illuminating a corridor of shifting landscapes, forests where leaves hummed with music, rivers that flowed in impossible directions, skies where stars moved with sentient intention. The path tested perception and patience, forcing Kellen to reconcile memory with possibility, instinct with understanding. Hours passed, though time felt irrelevant, each moment dense with revelation. He encountered reflections of himself at junctions, some encouraging, some questioning, all urging deeper understanding. The veil was teaching him not to act blindly, not to cling to expectation, but to respond with attuned awareness. Each decision shaped the unfolding landscape, each thought resonated outward, sending ripples of influence through the interconnected strands of Everdusk. Finally, the corridor opened into a vast chamber, where the air shimmered with prismatic light. At its center, a pool of liquid silver reflected not only his image but variations of himself, possibilities he had not yet explored, and echoes of choices already made. Kellen knelt beside it, seeing the interplay of cause and effect, the delicate threads that linked intention to consequence. He understood now that the veil was less a place and more a mirror of the soul, reflecting not merely what was, but what could be and what must be discerned to move forward. A subtle warmth rose from the orb, and Kellen sensed the figure's presence behind him. You have begun to grasp the rhythm of Everdusk, it said, but understanding is not completion. You must walk further, embrace uncertainty, and allow your perception to guide not only your feet but your heart. Only then will the veil reveal the next layer, and only then will you approach what lies at its deepest heart. Kellen rose, lifting the orb high. The chamber seemed to pulse in response, light expanding outward in waves that stretched into the distant horizons. He felt transformation deep within, a subtle strengthening of his awareness, a clarity tempered by humility. He stepped forward, leaving the pool behind, and the paths unfolded anew, weaving into landscapes both beautiful and disorienting, challenging and instructive. The veil whispered around him, not with sound but with presence, encouraging, warning, inviting. Kellen understood that the journey was far from over, yet he also recognized that every step carried meaning, every choice was a reflection of the self within the vastness of Everdusk. He lifted the orb, let its light guide him, and advanced, ready to meet the trials and revelations awaiting beyond the horizon, knowing that each moment was both question and answer, path and purpose, shadow and illumination. The veil pulsed in harmony with his own heartbeat as he walked onward, and the figure watched silently, awaiting the moment when Kellen would meet the threshold that separated knowing from understanding, perception from wisdom. And with each step, the story of the Veil of Everdusk continued to unfold, intricate and alive, carrying him deeper into its mysteries than he had ever imagined. The path ahead rippled like water, yet it held its shape, solid beneath Kellen's feet, as if the veil itself had conspired to support him. Light bent and shimmered around him, creating illusions that danced just beyond comprehension. Trees with translucent leaves whispered secrets as he passed, their murmurs brushing against the edges of his mind, prompting memories he did not know he possessed. The orb in his hand pulsed steadily, its glow a tether to both guidance and reality. Grounding him as the landscape shifted unpredictably with every step, the figure from before remained distant but perceptible, a presence in the periphery, observing, patient, and judging. Kellen felt that every move he made was both seen and understood, not scrutinized but acknowledged. The bridge, the valley, the crystal and pathways each had been a test of perception, of attunement to the subtle threads weaving the world together. Now, the veil seemed to invite him into deeper understanding, challenging him not with obstacles, but with questions that demanded instinct, empathy, and insight. Ahead, the terrain began to rise, forming a vast amphitheater carved from luminescent stone. Columns spiraled upward, bending light in impossible angles, creating a space simultaneously infinite and intimate. The air hummed with energy, resonant yet soothing, vibrating along the strands of Kellen's awareness. In the center of the amphitheater, a pool of liquid starlight shimmered, reflecting not only his image but echoes of others who had walked these paths, travelers, seekers, and dreamers whose choices had shaped fragments of this realm. Kellen approached the pool, feeling the orb grow warmer in his hands. The water seemed to respond to him, rippling outward as though acknowledging his presence. And then he saw it, a figure rising from the silver liquid, not solid, not shadow, but something in between, composed of light and memory. Its eyes held the depth of ages, the quiet wisdom of countless journeys, and yet a spark of curiosity, almost mirroring Kellen's own. "You have walked far," the figure said, voice like wind threading through glass. "You perceive the weave of Everdusk, yet there is more to understand. Knowledge is not enough. Insight must guide action, and courage must temper wisdom. The trials to come will not test strength but alignment of thought, of heart, and of essence. To falter here is to wander the veil endlessly, suspended between seeing and knowing." Kellen nodded, though uncertainty lingered beneath his resolve. "I feel changed, but I also feel the weight of what I've yet to learn." The figure inclined its head. "Good. Awareness of limits is the first step toward mastery. Step into the pool, Kellen, and witness what lies beneath. The reflection is not merely of who you are, but of who you may become, and what choices will guide that emergence." Taking a deep breath, Kellen extended the orb toward the liquid starlight. The water shimmered and parted, creating a passage that seemed both solid and ethereal. He stepped forward, feeling a shift in gravity and perception as the pool embraced him. The liquid did not wet or chill. It carried him smoothly, enveloping him in a sensation of weightless suspension. Around him, the reflections of countless paths and possibilities danced like living constellations, swirling in patterns he could not name yet somehow intuitively understood. Within the starlit water, Kellen's awareness expanded. He saw his past with perfect clarity, moments of choice, hesitation, courage, and fear interwoven with glimpses of paths he might yet take. Each choice branched outward, resonating through the threads of Everdusk, altering the landscapes, the trials, and the beings he would encounter. The orb pulsed, communicating subtly, not with words but with rhythm and warmth, guiding him through the intricate lattice of consequence and potential. Time became fluid. Moments stretched into infinity and contracted into instants. Kellen sensed that the veil was alive in a new way, responsive not just to presence but to understanding. He was no longer merely walking a path. He was shaping it, contributing to the tapestry even as it revealed itself to him. Shadows of previous travelers appeared and dissolved, offering silent guidance, showing glimpses of missteps and breakthroughs. Each encounter deepened his comprehension, not through instruction, but through resonance, the subtle communication of insight and intuition. At the edge of the pool, a sudden shift occurred. A corridor of light unfolded, narrow and twisting, its walls vibrating softly with the memory of countless choices. The figure from the pool's reflection whispered, "The next stage tests integration. You have seen the strands individually. Now you must move through them as one, letting intuition, perception, and understanding guide each step without hesitation or doubt." Kellen stepped into the corridor, feeling the pulse of Everdusk align with his own heartbeat. The walls shimmered, revealing fragments of events he had yet to experience, moments of insight and challenge intertwined with beauty and peril. The orb's light adapted, casting illumination where needed, fading where subtle observation was required. He felt a profound sense of connection, not only to the veil but to the echo of every traveler who had approached this threshold. As he moved, the corridor stretched endlessly, yet Kellen did not falter. The veil tested patience and clarity, requiring him to perceive patterns in chaos, discern rhythm within flux, and maintain focus amidst distraction. Shadows shifted into forms of challenge and guidance, blending memory, potential, and perception. Kellen began to understand that mastery of the veil was less about control and more about harmony, attuning to its pulse, responding to its whispers, and trusting the synthesis of insight and intuition. At last, the corridor opened onto a plateau overlooking a sea of shifting light. Islands of possibility floated in the expanse, each emanating color, energy, and vibration unique to its path. Kellen felt the enormity of choice, the vastness of Everdusk unfolding before him. And yet, within him, a calm resolve had taken root, the product of the trials, the reflection of the starlit pool, and the subtle guidance of the orb. The figure from earlier materialized beside him. The journey deepens, Kellen. Ahead lies the realm where intention becomes reality, and understanding shapes the threads of possibility. Proceed with awareness, and remember that every perception, every choice, carries weight. You are no longer merely an observer. You are part of the veil itself. Step forward, and let the next chapter reveal itself. Kellen lifted the orb higher, its light spreading across the plateau, illuminating the floating islands and the threads connecting them. The veil pulsed in anticipation, ready to guide him into experiences that would challenge, enlighten, and transform. And with a steadying breath, Kellen stepped toward the first island, entering the next stage of the Veil of Everdusk, where mysteries deepened and the tapestry of reality awaited his engagement with heart, mind, and essence. Kellen's foot touched the first floating island, and the world shifted once again. The air was denser here, saturated with the quiet hum of creation itself. Colors vibrated with a richness beyond description, and the ground beneath him, though solid, seemed to pulse subtly, as if alive. The orb in his hand glowed steadily, a beacon of certainty amid the fluidity of the veil, translating his awareness into a pathway through the island's intricate terrain. Every step carried weight, yet the weight was not burden, it was a resonance. A connection to the world, a validation of perception and purpose. The island stretched in all directions, undulating like the surface of a liquid, yet structures rose from it, towers of crystal and stone, arches that twisted impossibly into the sky, gardens where flora hummed with delicate melodies. Each element appeared designed to test perception, patience, and the subtle alignment of intent. Kellen understood that here, in this space between dimensions, reality was responsive to thought, yet thought untempered by awareness could mislead. The veil was a mirror, reflecting both inner truth and the potential for misjudgment. A bridge of shifting light arched toward the next island. But it was incomplete, strands of energy stretching toward infinity before coalescing again. Kellen approached cautiously, feeling the tug of uncertainty. The orb pulsed in his hand, synchronizing with his heartbeat, and he realized the bridge would only stabilize if he attuned fully to the rhythm of the veil. Closing his eyes, he listened to the subtle vibrations surrounding him, the whisper of islands shifting, the hum of distant structures, the cadence of his own presence. Step by step, he allowed perception to guide action rather than fear or expectation. And the bridge responded, solidifying beneath his feet as if acknowledging his alignment. Midway across, the air shimmered, and Kellen sensed the presence of something vast and deliberate. A form emerged, neither creature nor construct, more essence than shape. Its movement was slow, deliberate, each gesture bending the light around it. Kellen felt a profound awareness, the sense that the being existed outside conventional time, observing threads of choice and consequence simultaneously. It spoke without sound. Traveler, you walk the islands of potential, but alignment is only the beginning. To proceed, you must recognize not what is before you, but what exists within and beyond. The veil does not reveal itself. It reveals your resonance within it. Kellen's pulse quickened. I understand, he thought, though the truth was partial. The veil had begun to teach him beyond comprehension or language, translating insight directly into perception, guiding him toward harmony with the infinite possibilities around him. The orb flared brighter, responding to the subtle acknowledgement of understanding. And the island beneath him shifted slightly, a soft vibration of approval from the world itself. He moved onward, encountering chambers of luminescent flora and crystalline corridors that refracted every sound into harmonics he could feel in his chest. Time remained fluid, sometimes stretching into moments of near eternity, sometimes contracting into flickers, Yet Kellen felt increasingly anchored by the orb and by his attunement to the veil. Every obstacle became a lesson in observation. Every illusion an invitation to see deeper, and every choice resonated outward, affecting not only his path but the subtle geometry of the islands themselves. Finally, Kellen reached the center of the first island, a daze of translucent crystal rising above a pool of molten light. Reflected within it were not only his own experiences, but countless variations of paths he could take, threads intersecting and diverging in infinite complexity. He knelt beside the pool, letting the orb hover above it. The liquid shimmered and stirred, responding to the energy of his presence. And then he saw it, a vision not of himself, but of a world shaped by choices yet unmade, a potential reality where understanding and intention could weave harmony, or misalignment could fracture possibility. The orb pulsed once, and Kellen felt the weight of responsibility deepen. The veil had granted him glimpses of potential, but each insight carried consequence. It was not enough to see. He had to act with clarity, with purpose, with unwavering alignment to perception and heart. As he absorbed the visions, a whisper threaded through his consciousness. The next island awaits. Step forward, and let intention guide form. Kellen rose, feeling a calm determination settle in his chest. The bridge to the next island glimmered, now fully formed, stable, resonant with the rhythm of his attuned awareness. He stepped forward, each movement deliberate, each breath synchronized with the cadence of the veil. The island stretched before him, a constellation of possibilities, each awaiting engagement, each reflecting both challenge and opportunity. As he advanced, he understood that the journey through Everdusk was no longer a series of tests. It was an ongoing conversation with the world itself. The veil was alive, listening, responding, shaping, and being shaped by him. The orb pulsed in harmony with his heartbeat. The landscape shifted subtly to reflect his resonance, and the islands ahead shimmered with promise, mystery, and complexity. And in the distance, atop the highest floating island, a structure loomed towering, enigmatic, radiant with impossible light. Kellen sensed it as a culmination, not an end, but a convergence of all he had learned and all he had yet to perceive. Its presence resonated through the islands, threads of influence connecting it to every step he had taken, every choice made, every moment of insight. With a steadying breath, Kellen lifted the orb high, letting its light illuminate the path to the distant tower. The veil responded, pulsing with quiet encouragement, and he stepped forward, prepared to continue the unfolding story of the Veil of Everdusk, deeper into mysteries that tested understanding, perception, and the very essence of existence itself.